Hello, hello. Welcome to Leap Taken. Hello, hello. I'm Mika here at Leap Taken. I talk all things witchy, craft related, law of attraction, manifesting, esoteric, and everything else in between. And this is not in use. Why is this here? Anyway, and everything else in between. So, welcome to the channel. Um, yeah, so this is my witchy review. It's Friday. I got me some tea here in a fancy cup, glass. We calling it romanticize your life. I'm going to be talking more about that on my other channel. I'm working on videos now. Um, but we're going to have a nice conversation. Nobody's here yet. That's okay. I'm going to keep going. I know y'all catch me on a replay. So I've been trying to find like a sweet spot for a good time to go live. I normally go at 12 p.m. Arizona time. Right now, that's like 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's been kind of hard because I have other things going on. I'm running a business. If you didn't know, you can find me at leaptaken.com. I do offer services. I do readings. I do mentorship. So it's yeah, I'm trying to find a way going into the fall. I've been thinking about just making some changes that makes more sense for when I can come on live. I tried a Saturday at one point. I still like Fridays. I know I'm going to keep it on Fridays. I'm just trying to, like I said, find a sweet timing spot. Earlier, later. I'm playing with this later schedule to see how we go with this. Mm, a girl is thirsty. But welcome. We're gonna go ahead and jump into the topic. So from the thumbnail if you saw, I'm taking this oldie but goodie, the Goodly Spellbook. This is this was I got this many years ago. I think the copyright date is like 2014. This has been out for a minute. Okay, so this is not a new book. That's not the point. This is my copy. Like I said, I've had mine for a while. But yeah, I want to talk about this. I have notes to stay on task because y'all know I go full tangents. Let me pull my notes into the screen because I'm already about to go into something else. Um, yeah, this is the Goodly Spellbook, Old Spells for Modern Problems. That's what it's called. And I'm going to talk about how this kind of like traditional spell casting has shaped, influenced, and ultimately evolved into what this is one of the many things. There's a couple different things, but my approach, which is spells on spells on spells. I haven't talked, I mean, I kind of allude to it occasionally, but I'm starting a whole thing where I kind of want to really get more into the conversation about that. I feel like this is the perfect time to talk about spells on spells on spells. So if you've ever read a spell and thought, oh, so that's it, or wondered how to make your own magic and make it stick, you'll want to stay for this. This will be up your your alley. Um, so we're going to start with the Goodly Spellbook. This book is packed with like deeply rooted ceremonial type style spells that lean heavily on like planetary hours, lunar cycles, specific herbs, and ritual timing. Um, it's not just about lighting a candle and calling it a day. This book's it kind of really makes you work, and I mean that in the most positive way. It's not like a negative thing. Um, for me, the spells and things like that, the information in here, they make you work for it. They even do spell variations, which I like as well. But it's a spell book that honors traditions. Tradition. You feel the lineage behind the words. At least I do. And they have like words in like a different language in here too, by the way. But you feel that. But that also means it can be overwhelming, especially for modern witches who, let's just be honest, you're juggling work, family, and occasional, witchcraft burnout. Something like and I chose this for a reason. This could feel like a lot. You need your magic to be approachable. So there's value in structure, there's beauty in tradition, But the question does become, how do you take what works from old ways and make it yours? Something that's sustainable, intuitive, and still powerful. Ultimately, you want it to work, right? So, I want to talk about the evolution of my spellcraft. So, this is where my method, which I call spells on spells, comes into play. Obviously, I didn't invent layered magic. Witches have been doing that forever. But what I did do was I built a system that works for my life and for witches like me. So here's sort of what I mean. Let's say you're manifesting a life transition. Maybe you want to move to a new city. And everything I'm talking for what this example, I've done this more than once actually. You want to move to a new city. You're not casting one spell and sitting back and waiting for a U-Haul to show up. Take it from experience. Instead, you're layering over time in harmony with the energy you're working with. So, number one, you're going to maybe want a clarity spell to visualize your dream city and home. So, I'm going to want to, work that out first. And then I want a road opener spell to remove any blocks, logistical or emotional. Then I'm looking at a prosperity spell to ensure that the money is flowing, the finances flowing. And then an attraction spell. So that's going to be maybe to call in new friendships, maybe a support network, a home blessing ritual. So before or even while you search for a space, maybe there's certain divination practices as well that you're tying in. You see what I'm saying? Each piece is its own spell, but together, well, that's going to be your spells on spells on spells. You're not hoping the universe figures it out. You're giving it a map. That's what I'm talking about. You see, like we're working it. We're doing the work. Um, if you have any questions about in the comments, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments, by the way, about like my spells on spells approach. It has been, and I'm kind of doing like this back, I'm going to get into that, this back to basics type content right now, witchcraft basics. And for me, that is a basic spells on spells on spells. Um, so now, I do get asked often, actually, how do you track all of this? How do you organize all of this? I want you to really think about it. If I'm doing five different, right now, I just told you five first different spells, how am I going to keep this together and know what's happening? And, how will I know? How will I know? Well, that's why I'm always actually telling others to record their magic, to record the information. But use your book of shadows, use your journal, and yes, plural books of shadows. So I realize everybody's not like me. Everybody doesn't like having, but you kind of want to, and I'm gonna get into that. You Boku Wakuma 90 says that was going to be my question. I do short term spells often, but I want to start layering. Honestly, that's where it's at. So, one of the things I had when I started thinking on spells on spells on spells, one of the things I had to realize is that I did wonder, well, if I'm okay, let me take you in my mindset and I'm gonna lead you through it. I did say to myself this back in the day, it seems like when I see people doing witchcraft, like, what do you mean you're doing witchcraft every day? And I used to have this sort of attitude about it, like, why? What if didn't your spell work? Like, why aren't your needs met? Why do you have to keep doing the spells? That was a legitimate question that I wondered. Why do you have to keep doing this? And then I understood, because life is not a fairy, like, well, you could it's not a real life fairy tale. We don't have fairy tales are fairy tales, and then there's this reality. You can have pieces of a fairy tale life, but the entire thing is not a fairy tale. Because if that's the case, I would not have debilitating cramps. If life was a fairy tale, I wouldn't be anemic if life was a fairy tale. So anyway, um, no, I wouldn't have these issues. We wouldn't have cancer, sickness, all the other stuff. If like if you could manifest a true fairy tale life, you can get close to it, and a lot of us are aiming just for that. That'd be really awesome. Um, but as we know, lives. There's variables. There's other people's will. There's outside stuff, and then there's the stuff that's happening to you inside that you're not even necessarily dealing with. My point is, there's variables, and that can change what your life will look like. you know you got your dream house, but there's a developers coming in and they want the land, so it's like, but wait, uh, and you're fighting and they're getting dirty and underhanded. So what was your dream home and your dream life has become a nightmare. You're in a great relationship, they die. I mean, I'm just saying, there are variables to life. So yeah, these things, you could get what you want, but that doesn't mean it stays, because that's not the human experience. Okay. So once I came to that realization, I was like, oh, okay. So there's variables, there's moving parts to just how we live. So there's a reason that I have to keep doing spells. And this was me wondering about the legitimacy of witchcraft, magic, and spells. Is this stuff really working? I used to ask these types of questions, and this is my lens how I looked into it. You said the way I look at people go to church and pray and do the whole shebang at least once a week so I could keep doing spells. Exactly. I hadn't even got to that, but that's a great example. So I'm like, okay. Once I understood that, I was cool. Like, all right, I can get into this. And then I was like, well, who I was 5 years ago is not who I am, let alone 10 or 20 years ago. So my needs, desires, they change. So obviously, I mean, to be perfectly honest, have you ever got really super into something and you thought it was going to be your personality, your life, and after a couple months you don't feel as strongly about it, as passionate about it. It's not that you dislike it, it's just not on the 10 you were on, that in the beginning, and you may never come back to that level of intensity about it, and now you have something else that you have intense feelings about and passionate about. Well, yeah, that's why you might want to do some magic and things like that. So what was perfectly fine, you living where you lived, for me, I wanted to live in Florida. I'm gonna make this a little more personal. I lived in Florida. I wanted to live in Florida at the time. I moved away more than a few times, but I kept coming back because I really wanted to live. Now, I've lived North Florida. I lived on the Gulf side, and I lived on the opposite end as well. So like Jacksonville, Naples, Boca Raton, and Boynton Beach. So I've lived in Florida at different points, and for years at least a year in Naples, but several years at each other place. Um, and I was dedicated to being a sea witch, a beach girly, beach life. I always lived very close to the beach. I would go to the beach, honey. I was going to the nude beach. Like, when I tell you I was about that life, I was about that life. Like, I'm out. We out here. Um, Make sure to wear sunscreen and proper things for your eyes when you do that. I now have permanent sun damage in my eyes that I have to go to an eye specialist and make sure I'm okay, because I didn't wear UV protector or sunglasses. So be careful for that. It's something we monitor. I don't have to do anything about it, but it's real. So if I ever see my eyes and they look kind of red, or like something's going on, I'm not having any issues, that is permanent sun damage. So just aside from everything else I'm talking about, protect yourself. But yeah, I was definitely like every weekend, darn near, I was at the beach. I was a different complexion. People who sometimes see me, I've had friends come and visit. They was like, dang, you got light. I was like, no, I didn't. Yes, I did. I was permanently browner, for I felt like at that time. Well, it wasn't permanent, but it felt like it because of my very sunny life at the beach. And I would go and I would do my crystal charging on a full moon, and I would go to the beach and just have it in a cloth, and I would just go out and be under the moonlight at the beach and stand there, and I this is what I manifested. This is what I wanted. Then I had a dream. I had a dream, and it was a prophetic dream. And then that prophetic dream led me to being a little bit more open to leaving and trading my beaches for the desert, for the mountains. And that's exactly what I did. But in order to make that happen, I had to do some spells on spells on spells. So I did have to, first of all, do some sort of we're going to call it a clarity spell, to understand the dream, understand, a couple different things. Divination was used for sure. And then, we had to do a protection spell. And then me, a protection spell. And then there was a prosperity money spell. And then there were other types of spells as well that was done. Then I had to do another spell to find a place to live. And I did scripting as a spell. And the place that I live in now was the reality of that. I literally wrote and scripted about a good amount of the life that I live here. Um, and then there were other spells on top of that. So to keep track of this, which is what I was getting at before I went on that full blown tangent, I had a scripting journal. I had my book of shadows that I created, like, homemade book of shadows that I created. I've shared several pages of that here. So I have multiple spells there. Now, what I like to do is treat things like a project. So I did something called a dream life blueprint spell thing, because I was working on something else a few years ago. And I actually went into Canva and created these beautiful, like, I took my spells I wrote and put it in Canva, made these beautiful pages, and printed it and like glued it into my book of shadows as well. So I did that also, so it could be all together. Before I just wrote it on in the book, but like I did all that. What I like to do is write down my spell results, like in the margins. Sometimes I used to have like a sheet that I created just said spell results. Um, but I like to go back to the spells and put a date and, you know, the things that happen, or I'll leave like a blank page in between, and that's where I'll be writing down the results. And it's like a quick note, like, so and so reached out to me. I didn't realize they lived in Arizona. They're going to help me, with neighborhoods, like figuring out what neighborhood I'm going to live in. Um, oh, this person invited the husband over, and they want to talk about, some business stuff that could lead to something else, that sort of thing. And this is because like the attraction work and all the other stuff that I was doing, like these were moving parts all happening. And I wanted to record all of that, one, for myself to understand what's working, what's not. Yeah, so that's how you would record it. I write down every spell that you're doing, and then leave space either on the next page or in the margins, like how I can be. Sometimes I just like writing it on there, and I'll write the date and what happened. And, I'll just something short like, oh, received, $5,000, from an old, uh, account or something like that. Something like that. Like, oh, so that money came in, so we needed that, and I got new furniture and stuff like that. And I'm actually giving kind of some examples of stuff that actually happened and how this stuff started happening. Like, I didn't know that was coming. I didn't know. I never met these other people, so I didn't know that was going to lead to something else. You see what I mean? But attraction spells, the clarity spell, to have the presence of mind, discernment to understand when to move and when not. So what happened is I had this dream. There was a series of events that happened that seemed catastrophic at the time, but it was the catalyst to make the move happen. And it was necessary. Long story short about that, without getting too much in that, my at the time husband's work stuff. Um, he I would help him look for a job, and I would have his resume, and I would apply sometimes for him. He's there as well in applying, but I was applying, and I would and I would just like, we're in the same room, like with our computers and stuff like that. And I would yell out, "Oh, this place is in such and such. Do you care?" And they're like, "Yeah, but yeah, I do that one." I'm like, "Oh, okay." It will work. Like, we're tag teaming. Um, and I saw something for Arizona, and I knew immediately that was the job. I knew it, I knew it, and I knew, and I didn't say anything, and I just applied, and I was like, and I had to. That's where the clarity spell came in after I had the dream, because I had to be in a presence of mind to recognize the opportunity, and I knew that was the job, that was the opportunity, that was the catalyst to get us here. That was going to be the bridge, and it was just the bridge. It wasn't like a forever dream job or anything like that. It was the necessary thing to get, well, at least me here. Because I believe my magic was working for me at the time. um and I'm here, and I love being here. And the crazy part is, I don't think I want to live in Florida again. I say think because, we changed, but I don't. Well, one, I don't like the politics. Two, the hurricane situation. I've lived through them. I don't want to go through that ever again. We don't really have weather here like that. We just have, extreme heat. But as long as you have electricity, you're gonna because you got air conditioner. So as long as we keep the AC pumping, we're fine. We can weather the heat. So I like being here. I like my proximity to California, not because I love California, but because I can go to concerts and major events and any kind of conventions and things like that because I got access to LA. I love being so close to Vegas. And I love being near Phoenix. I love because you have people who come here, shows, concerts, things like that. And that's how I like to live my life, going to shows and experiencing things like that. So this has been wonderful, living here. So yeah, that's how I got here. There was a lot of magic involved. There was definitely some other, we'll just say some divine intervention from my spirit team to help me get here as well, and then my actual spell work to help get me here. And there were multiple spells, but it was all one big project of coming to Arizona. So I like to have different books of shadows for different areas of my life. That honestly had a lot to do with why I created the books of shadows that I have, which is the book of shadows for the Love Witch, because I do work with glamour magic. I would tell you guys often, love is my superpower because love is a strong motivator. It's will, it's energy. And as a mother, I would take all y'all out for my kids. Like, I can't explain it enough. Like, I will move the world for my babies who are adults. So love is a powerful thing, but I'm also extremely loyal. So the people I love and care about, when I tell you I love you, when I say you're my friend, I mean that. I'm with you. We together. Um, and I will do powerful work for protection for you and to help you because I love you. So those intense feelings about love are not just outward, it's also inward for me. I love me. I'm looking out for me. I care for me. And this is a place for me to reflect on that as well. This is where I like to do attraction magic. This is where I want to do my glamour spells. This is where I want to do my self love. And there are times, even with doing all this work, why would I have to keep doing it if I did the magic? Kind of back to my original question. You know why? Because I'm changing. I'm not staying the same. I'm getting older. There's more fine lines than there used to be. Gravity is setting in, and the world tells me I'm not as valuable. And honestly, there's not even like there's no room for me. I'm what is happening? anyway, that I'm not as valuable anymore, or there's no place for me in the world because I'm older. So this is a place for me to sometimes journal about and work through those feelings, to devise spells, to call out and write petitions to my ancestors for guidance on those feelings of just, and also to deal with health issues as well and things like that. This is, I'm talking about the practical side of things. This is seriously and these are my copies. My work is in here. I have my Aphrodite thing anyway, where I was evoking her. So yeah, this is my book that I actually use. So yeah, that's why I created that. That's where I go. And then I have the Hearth Witch, Book of Shadows for the Hearth Witch. And I'm not just like doing this just to talk about this. I mean, I'm selling the books. I've been selling them since the end of the first quarter of the year, this year. This is real though. This, I'm really using these. The Book of Shadows for the Hearth Witch is my major part of my practice as a witch, is a cottage witch or a hearth witch. So this is where I'm doing, oh, as a gnat comes, all the home spells. Also, I'm going to get rid of these gnats if it's the last thing I do. That's another thing anyway. But yeah, once I get that, I'll be writing that in here as well. But anyway, yeah, I do anything to do with hearth, home, spirits, the fae, that sort of thing. That goes in here. Recipes, any ideas. Sometimes I just journal about things. It goes in here. And hoodoo. So the hoodoo grimoire, obviously if you do hoodoo, but I'd like to say for folk practitioners as well. Um, this is the part that makes me different from, I guess, somebody of European descent saying they're a cottage witch. This part is also my legacy. This is, or I should say, my birthright, of being a hoodoo worker. There are things that I'm doing that is coming not from just intuition and what I think or what I've read or anything like that, or it's coming from my bloodline. I don't even always know where it's coming from, but I know this. Some of it's obviously passed down. They wouldn't have called it hoodoo or witchcraft or anything like that. But some of the things that we've done is passed down. Like one of the common things, burning hair. So after you comb your hair, you burn it. You don't want anybody getting strands of your hair because they could put something on you. Things like that. But anyway, that's where those things that I know in ancestral magic, that working with ancestors, that's where I like to go and put things in here. And then I still work with my homemade books, I should say. Still, like, this is what I'm calling my portal my portal book, magic book. And this is where I'm creating portals in the book. Yeah, and I'm creating like a portal page, and I work this in a spell. So this book will be worked in a spell. These are paper dolls that I create that represent some essence of myself. And I've created separate pages. Also, I've turned this into a scripting book as well, where I like to write. So I'm writing the script of the story that I'm basically bringing into existence through portal magic. So this is also good if you want to go someplace. Like, I want to plan a trip soon to Sedona with others, my coven. So this is something, and I write about that. Same thing, like a trip to New Orleans. And I do my ancestor stuff in here too. And I've actually used this to talk to my ancestors. I also have some spell work in here, but as it relates to the portal magic. So that's kind of as far as I got with this one. But you get what I'm saying? Like, I use all the books. I really use them all. And there's no predetermined, like, oh, is it going to be done? Or, I just start a new book. That's how I operate. Just keep them together. You know what those books are for. You know what you're using them for. So it doesn't get overwhelming unless you want it to be overwhelming. But each book becomes a living archive of how I build and layer my spells over time. sometimes while you're working your spells and spells and spells, you do realize there can be another variable that changes your original intention. So for me, what changed, and I'm just being completely honest with you, is I had been scripting a life when we came here where it was going to continue just from Florida to here. But that wasn't going to happen anymore because ultimately that wasn't going to be best for me. So I'm no longer with that husband. My son went to the military, and my daughter I thought was going to medical school, and that didn't happen. So there was other things that completely changed the trajectory of, well, everything. And then I had to modify my intentions. And that really became something else. But that was a catalyst to what I technically was scripting for myself. I can't wait to start decorating them. There you go. That was a catalyst for me, um, because this is where you got to be careful about your intention. There was a single thread in this what I was scripting, what I was saying during during my spell work and rituals and all of that for the overall project, that is to come to Arizona. That's kind of like the main title, to move to Arizona, but there were so many other parts. But I wanted a peaceful life. I had written about waking up, feeling positive, feeling ready to start the day, a day of writing, a day of creating content, um, practicing magic, how I would go in the kitchen and I would be elaborate with making coffee or tea, and I would ritualize it. I wrote all this down, this life that I wanted, and how I would just see a beautiful sunny sky, and how I would walk into my witchy room and my private sanctuary, my space within my already, home, which is my sanctuary. And the crazy thing about it was, for that to happen, a lot of changes had to happen. Less people in the house, I should just say that. So I'm in said room. I wake up and I write and I create content and I do elaborate rituals for tea and for coffee. I bought a French press. You can't tell me nothing. Listen, I add spice to my coffee. Bougie, real bougie over here. And I can't have, I gotta have a certain type of coffee, an espresso. Like it's gotten crazy, crazy good. Let me tell y'all, it came true. It all came true. The through line was that peace and that life. Sometimes if you're doing all this and if the relationship, the marriage you was in, it fizzles out and you're like, but I scripted happy days and happiness with this person. You talked about you feeling happy. You talked about how you wanted to feel. You want to feel that, right? Well, he can't stay. Or them kids got to go. you know, that type of thing. Just saying, warning, because this gets powerful. When you're putting this level of energy into something, you're going to get results. There's going to be some power. There's you're giving the universe a plan. So boom, plan takes off. And you can have a 20-year marriage, but this is what you want, right? All right, well, let's go. This is what you're gonna get. But you got to get through that first. Nobody talks about that. But anyway, I do. Anyway, um, what I love about the published versions of the Hoodoo Grimoire, the Love Witch, and Hearth Witch, um, is, again, they're not just pretty books, although I do think they're pretty. They're designed to evolve with you. Your homemade books, same thing. I'm just talking about those, but they're designed to evolve with you. That's the purpose of the blank pages. You're supposed to fill it out and decorate it or write in it, or do whatever you want, but record the magic, put the information in there, take a picture of your spell work, print it out and or get a picture, however do that, and put it in your book. Tape it, paste it in your book. The candle, the work that you did, do put it in your book, and then you can write underneath or in a margin or someplace else. September 1st. The first results of what happened, and you keep writing that stuff down. You need that also. It does something to your mind as well when you start actually seeing those results and you become more confident in your magic. You start creating more spells. Spoiler, we're going to be talking about creating spells soon. Anyway, but you don't just record the spell. Let me get back on point. You write the information, the intention, you track the results, you reflect on what worked and what didn't, and what you'll try next. Those are really important, y'all. Like, listen, I know in the days of people's like, oh, I, just wipe my hands from the Cheetos I put in my mouth and I just, get to doing magic and that's it and I'm done. That's cute. I've done that type of magic where it's like real whatever, and I've had great results. You can't build a practice off of that. I mean, you can, but it's going to be chaotic, and not in the chaos magic way, just chaotic. You're working with a lot of energy. Be responsible. But anyway, that's what modern witchcraft looks like. It is dynamic. It's personal and it's documented. But it's also yours, and this is how it works for me. So that is kind of the thing. But with the Goodly Spellbook, yeah, this one, I wanted to use this as an example because a lot of people talk like this. I have nothing negative to say about this book, but if you're really trying to work the magic in here, it can feel overwhelming. Y'all, like, some of these spells are like trying to actually make it happen. You're like, how am I going to do? It's a lot. Some of them are a lot. It's a lot of detail, and it can seem like, wait, I just say these words and that's it. Like, how do like, to attract witch friends? For me, if I want to attract witch friends, let's say a spell in a book like this, but I'm also going to do some other stuff, because what type of witch friends do you want to attract? Do you want to attract anybody? What kind of energy do you want them to come with? So, I'm going to do some other things as well. Earthy, down to earth. So I'm going to do a little bit of plant magic. I'm going to plant some magic seeds and maybe some sort of flower or herb that's associated and corresponds with like friendship or love or, things like that. I would do something like that, something very, I guess neutral type herb as well. I would think like that and plant it. And as the seedling takes root and it grows, so does my opportunities to bring in, grounded people who are open to growth and creativity and new ideas, and maybe who are a little eccentric or something like that. So, that's how my brain thinks. That's what I would plant that along with doing maybe some spell where I'm saying some charms and lighting some candles, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's where this comes into play. So speaking of documenting magic, I want to gush for another second or two about another book. Now I got the proof. I talked about this the last live, the proof of the Witchy Activity Book, but this is the final cover minus the bar across, but this is it. Hello. This is my Witchy Activity Book. This is going to be going to the market. This is all fun pages in here. So it's a fun book. It's functional. It's not just coloring pages. There's opportunities to do coloring. This is not I'm not selling you a coloring book, because to be honest with you, I'm sick of just coloring books for witchcraft. That's if it's spell building templates, it's ritual planning pages, it's magical journal prompts, lots of prompts to work with. There's cutout tools, there's Sabbath crafts, basically a little bit of everything I wanted in a book when I was learning and relearning how to approach my craft in a way that actually made sense for my life. There's even a section that walks you through creating spell sequences, so you can kind of practice your own version of layered spell work. And also, the book helps kind of build as you work it. So you come in with a fun quiz. I like a good quiz, but I don't quiz you to death. But there's more prompts than quizzes. But there is a fun quiz on like which witch are you? Because who doesn't love that? That's fun. I listen. You don't have to stay married to the idea, but there's some fun descriptors of the type of witch you might want to be. And then we get into setting intentions. There's a whole page on that. And then we start getting into altars, and then we build on color magic and so forth. And then we come back to, once you have that information, then we build onto that, and then Sabbats, and then we build onto that and so forth. So there's some building, and we end with shadow and release and new moon manifestation work. And then there's a pretty certificate in the back that you complete. This page is meant to be used. These pages are meant to be used. I'm encouraging you to cut out the certificate of achievement at the end, and you can hang this up somewhere when you've completed the whole book. So this is something that will be in the book. So you'll have this at the end. But this is a doing book. It's not just a reading. I made this for people who struggle with reading, some thick book like this that might have wonderful information, but you're never going to be able to just sit down and read it. Here, it's information, but a little more bite size and a little more to the point. And then there's an opportunity for you to work it and to relearn it and to let it kind of ruminate with journaling and things like that. I have everything here, like your witch's creed. There's so much going on with this. I'm super proud of this, by the way. This is something I had already the outline for from last year, and I went with the Book of Shadows first. And I picked it up and got a good amount of it done. Realized I thought it was just going to be a quick little book, and it turned into something a lot more, because I was like, well, I got to keep going. Like, there's more. I kept thinking all the things. There's divination, everything in here. Witches' runes, tarot spreads. But anyway, yeah, it ends up being over 150 pages, by the way, of activity and things, but and information as well. But yeah, I really struggled because I kept falling out of my writing plans, and I wasn't writing. I kept like not going back to it, and yeah. Yeah. But I finished finally, and we're currently still in review. The ISBN number was assigned yesterday, so I'm thinking it should be available like in another day or two, and then I'll order my copies outside of the proof, and yeah, I'll get my copies in. I'll start selling it on a TikTok shop and directly through my website, leaptaken.com. You can always buy directly from me. If you don't want to go to Amazon, you're not on TikTok, just go to leaptaken.com. You can get all my books there too. Uh, and sometimes I actually do sales. I'll give you a discount code and things like that. So get on the mailing list, because they get specials that the rest of you may never know about if you don't sign up. So do that too. And I don't sell information or do all. I don't even know how to do that. Anyway, so go ahead. Feel free to sign up on through my website. So anyway, I wanted to tell you guys about the Witchy Activity Book for sure. But here's the truth. I still, I still love these types of books. Don't get me wrong. Oh, I'll be buying some spell books because I can't contain myself. There's something powerful, though, about just lighting a candle at the exact right planetary hour and calling in energy that's been used by witches for centuries. But I also believe in adapting and evolving, hence my take on modern hoodoo, um, in remixing our magic to meet our real lives. Not just fantasy aesthetic. No shade, but y'all know what I'm talking about. So this isn't about just like choosing one style over the other. It's about honoring like the old ways and trusting your own path enough to create new ones. Um, You can light a green candle on Thursday while chanting a spell from the 1600s and create a modern day spell charm or chain, I should say, that starts with a sigil in your wallet and ends with a bath ritual under a full moon. This is what I'm talking about, like just extending it. So, like, you can do all that and just take it on a new, like, just layer it with even more stuff. I don't think witchcraft is an either or. It's a yes and that's kind of how I approach it. Um, so that's my thing. That's kind of my thing. But if you are curious about any of the books of shadows that I mentioned again, um, and when you inevitably want to get your hands on the Witchy Activity book, it will. I'm thinking within the next 2 days. I'd like to believe by Monday, Tuesday at the latest, this will be available on Amazon and shortly after directly through my website and through the TikTok shop. So this is happening. I am very excited about this because this is actually a fun book to work with. There's so many opportunities for you to just do fun stuff, and I'll be doing videos. There are coloring opportunities, but it's so much more than just a coloring book. This is like a witchy workbook, the real kind. It's not repetitive, where you're just getting the same information and you're filling out every full moon, answering the same prompts. There is meant to be some overlap because you learn some other stuff and now we're going to apply it differently. So you're going to be asked questions that sound similar, but it's based on the information that you've learned. You follow me? Kind of like how you would take curriculum or schoolwork. It's you come back, but now you can answer a little bit more deeply. But I have a little bit of everything in here. I adore this book. So when I get my copies, I'll be demoing like how to work the book and stuff like that, and doing pages and all that sort of stuff. And that'll actually be taking place on my Magical Lifestyle of a Cottage Witch, because I'll be back to posting over there soon. Anyway, but yeah, if you're not already, follow me on TikTok. Leap Takens on TikTok. So follow me there because I'll be doing. I'm just posting a little bit more, a little bit here and there. They say you have to keep posting. Gosh, that is so hard. I don't know why I'm making it hard, but we're working through it. We're working through it. We're not letting that be, a big thing, because I think I've just made it a bigger deal in my head about TikTok. I don't know why that is. It can feel intimidating. Also, if you didn't catch it, I talked about building a curriculum. This past Wednesday, I did my live on that and my self-study semester, and I've created a syllabus and everything with all my information. And I've created like my weekly planner sheet. So I start my school on Monday. So I'm quite excited about that as well. So I start my studies on Monday. So I have books from the library and things like that. So I will be also updating on how that process goes and kind of sharing the updates about that, and hopefully to encourage others as well, to kind of do, that type of work as well. Build your curriculum. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, watch that video and I'll explain everything. And I talk about what I'm going to be studying, my coursework, kind of my rationale behind it, and how I'm still thinking about tweaking it a little bit. But for now, I'm taking it like through weeks 1 through 3. I'm focusing on this. 4 through 6, the other thing, and so forth. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. Happy Friday. I hope everybody has an excellent weekend. If you're looking for witchy community, please head to my Discord channel, Leap Taken Safe Place for Witches. We're getting a lot more active over there than we have been in the past. I'm hosting the every first Saturday virtual meet and greet, and we've had 2 so far. So come through. If you don't want to be on camera, you do not have to be, but you will be able to talk, right? So that'll be fun. So you can talk. It's not just about talking to me. You'll talk to other people and we're building witchy community. And if anybody gets out of hand or it feels not safe, I immediately remove them. So you don't have to worry about like some spooky, crazy, weirdo energy other than, my normal weirdo, spooky energy. Nothing that's harmful. All right, so like, subscribe, share, hit the join button, join Leap Taken membership. You support the channel, you get member only content, and you get 40% off everything over at leaptaken.com. Head to my website leaptaken.com. I offer readings, I offer mentorship programs, I offer monthly moon readings. Check all that out over there as well. And obviously, books, products, and things like that. So check out the website as well. And I have a second YouTube channel called Magical Lifestyle for the Cottage Witch, and I will be back to posting content over there. So that's kind of like, I took the summer off and I'm coming back for the fall. So that's going to be happening as well soon. And I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling invigorated. By the way, I'm doing this because I'm doing my own spells on spells on spells. So I'm about to do my own stuff. So that's where the series is coming in. It's mirroring real magic happening behind the scenes. All right, that's all. All right, bye.